Boy, that's just excellent. We love Rear Window. Just fantastic suspense, great performances, great dialogue. You can really see why Rear Window is listed by a lot of people as their favorite Alfred Hitchcock movie. It really is fantastic. Boy, and you know, I will link up the PDF now that you've seen this, if you've not seen it before. The short story It Must Be Murder, written in 1942 by Cornell Woolrich. It's about 12 pages long, so it's a quick little read, and it's neat to see, you know, taking a story, a short story, and turning it into a movie, or as Alfred Hitchcock says, creating cinema. So how much is it of the original story? How much is written by John Michael Hayes? How much is written by Alfred Hitchcock? It really is a great opportunity to see that. So you know, the performances, as I was saying, James Stewart, fantastic, funny. I mean, it's almost like a comic thriller almost. I don't think there's a man alive in 1954 who could pull this role, resisting Grace Kelly's advances. That would look that would look ridiculous on anyone else, but it's just right for good old, you know, what would we call him? The good old boy, not good old boy, but the good old fashioned, I don't know, Jimmy Stewart. So fantastic. And how great was Grace Kelly's entrance when she comes into the movie? Just perfect, delightful. You know, do watch the featurette. There's two of them, I think, on the DVD, because they talk about how much John Michael Hayes created this character of Lisa. Because in the short story, you got a text. In the short story, there are no women in it. There are no women characters, so they made all that up. And Lisa apparently was modeled after John Michael Hayes' own wife, which is pretty neat. Just loved her entrance. So now let's talk about the limited setting. You know, of the four limited settings, probably the one that was most limited was Rope, and there are reasons for that. It was one long continuous take. As Diane pointed out to me as we were watching this, I was mentioning Rope, and she said it also happened in real time, and that, you know, that certainly is not what we have here. Lifeboat is probably, because that seriously was on a boat, that's the most amazing accomplishment, because that was not claustrophobic or you know, set to you know, in one spot and making us feel bored. This allowed us at least to look into other lives and sort of see out in the street and what have you. But I don't think that you'd get this masterpiece, Rear Window, without Hitch learning from Rope. As good as Rope is and as much as we like it, he sort of has to do that before he could accomplish this. And that's why it's neat to watch all these in a row, and it sure has been a delight for us. I think this is just a great example. Now, I wanted to talk about this deal with Paramount Pictures. He ends up owning the rights to this movie and the next four movies. Well, four movies in the near future. And that has implications, because it's a complicated story, but something like he was given advice to keep these off the market and store the original movies, and they got beaten up, and a lot of the films were lost, and they weren't actually even re-released until the 80s, 1983 on VHS, and if you saw them, they were awful. They had lousy color, they were all faded, and they had to be restored. They talk about that on the featurette on the DVD as well. The same people that restored Vertigo to its glory, and thank goodness they did, because this needed to be seen. The colors were on purpose. You know, the lighting on the apartment building when it was dusk and night and day and all that sort of thing, you really wouldn't want to see that fuzzy. You wanted to see this done real well. So what a cool cameo by Alfred Hitchcock. He was winding the clock, if you didn't see it, in the composer's apartment. That composer is a real-life composer. Among other things, he composed the music for Alvin and the Chipmunks way back then. So that's kind of neat. So now that was kind of interesting to see Alfred Hitchcock out in one of the apartments, because apparently when he was directing, he stayed back in what was Jeff's apartment, and he directed everybody from afar. Well, how did he do that? Well, they all had little flesh-toned earpieces in their ears, and he would tell them, no, move left, move right, and what a neat experience that must have been. So, so very interesting. And lastly, the music we wanted to talk about. Very interesting in that, except for the opening credits, all of the music you heard was music that everybody heard. And there's actually a definition of that called diegetic. I had to look it up, but it's basically like if I'm in a movie right now and I put on a DVD, I can hear it, you can hear it, that's diegetic. But most movies aren't like that. Most movies are like, you know, we're having a fight, or we're having an amorous whatever, and there's music on in the background that we can't hear. That wasn't this. All the music, and if you do happen to watch Rear Window again, and if you didn't this time, watch it with the subtitles on, because you can actually see all the lyrics to all the songs. They're all real songs, popular songs at the day, or in the day, and I did that once. It was very worthwhile. So that was very interesting, and a very clever use of music, because I think that it might have been something wrong if there would have been music in the background when we're supposed to be hearing the sounds of the city, the sounds of the people dining and listening to music and playing the piano. It was perfect. It really was neat, and we don't see a lot of movies like that. So good. That's a big thumbs up for Rear Window. We're just delighted that we got to see that one. So good. Now we're done with 1954. Boy, Hitchcock got a lot done in 1954, both Dial M for Murder and this one. But we wanted to talk very briefly about 1954. What won Best Picture in 1954 was On the Waterfront with Marlon Brando. Just a fantastic performance by Marlon Brando. This was the movie that Grace Kelly turned down in order to do Rear Window. Now, Eva Marie Saint, who did take that part, ends up winning the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress for her role in On the Waterfront. But Grace Kelly probably wasn't feeling too bad, because another movie she did in 1954 called The Country Girl, she wins Best Actress. She wins the Oscar that year. So just amazing. A lot going on for this lady in her 5-year career, which will come to an end. And yes, we will eventually talk about that next week. Another movie that we just love from 1954 is Sabrina, with Audrey Hepburn, William Holden, and Humphrey Bogart. So that's, if you're interested, just to compare and see what it was like. That's a black and white one, and we're all loving color now. So, but anyways, good. So we are done with 1954. So we look forward to next week, To Catch a Thief from 1955. So good. So from our couch to yours, we look forward to that, and we will see you next week.